The night was quiet. The small town lay under a blanket of darkness with only the soft glow of street lamps touching the empty roads. Most houses were asleep, windows dark, doors locked. But one young man, Daniel, walked alone down the narrow path leading toward the woods. Daniel often walked late at night. It was his way of calming his restless thoughts. The world seemed quieter, softer at this hour. Yet tonight felt different. The air was colder, the silence heavier. The trees stood tall like shadows, and a thin mist curled around the ground. As he walked deeper, he saw something unusual. At first he thought they were fireflies, tiny sparks of light dancing between the branches. But these lights were brighter, larger, moving with strange patterns. They didn't blink like insects. They floated, glowing in soft blue and white, almost like stars that had fallen from the sky. Daniel stopped. His heart beat faster. A voice inside told him to turn back, to forget what he saw. But curiosity pulled him forward. Step by step, he followed the lights deeper into the forest. His footsteps crunched against the leaves, echoing louder than usual in the silence. The glowing orbs moved ahead of him, as if guiding him somewhere. Then suddenly they vanished. The forest became dark again. Daniel stood still, breathing heavily. His eyes searched the shadows, unsure of what he might find. Then he heard it. A soft cry. It was faint, almost hidden by the rustle of leaves. A small, trembling voice calling out in pain. Daniel's chest tightened. He followed the sound until he reached a small clearing. There in the middle of the grass lay a figure. At first he thought it was a child. She was small, her body curled, trembling as though she was freezing. Her skin glowed faintly in the dark, pale silver with veins of light running across it as if stars lived inside her blood. Her hair was long, flowing, and shimmered with faint colors that shifted like water. Daniel's breath caught in his throat. This was no ordinary child. The girl lifted her head slowly. Her eyes were wide and shining, a deep violet that looked almost endless. She tried to speak, but her voice broke, strange and weak. Please, help." Daniel froze. His mind screamed at him. This was impossible. An alien, something from another world. But when he looked into her eyes, he did not see danger. He saw fear. He knelt down carefully. "Are you hurt?" he asked softly. The girl nodded weakly. There was a wound on her arm, glowing faintly where her blood leaked like liquid light. She clutched it with her tiny hands, shaking. Daniel reached into his pocket, pulling out a small cloth. He didn't know if it would help, but he gently wrapped it around her arm. The girl flinched at first, but then she looked at him with surprise. Her voice came again, broken but clear. "You? Human?" Daniel's heart raced. "Yes, my name is Daniel." Who are you?" She struggled to speak. "Lost. Mother, gone. Hunters. Chasing." Her words were broken, but the fear in them was sharp. Daniel tried to understand. Lost. Mother. Hunters. Someone was after her. He looked around the dark forest, suddenly aware of how silent it was. Too silent. "Don't worry," he whispered, more to himself than to her. "I'll keep you safe." The girl's violet eyes filled with tears. She looked at him as if she didn't quite believe him, but she wanted to. She reached out with a trembling hand, clutching his sleeve. Then the sound came. A crack of branches, heavy steps in the distance. Daniel's head snapped up. In the shadows between the trees, he saw movement. Tall, dark figures shifting silently. For a moment, glowing red lights flashed like eyes searching through the night. The girl gasped and pressed closer to him. "Hunters!" she whispered in fear. Daniel's chest tightened. His every instinct told him to run. But how could he leave her here? He stood, pulling the girl gently to her feet. "Come on," he said firmly. "We have to go." Her legs were weak, but she leaned against him as they moved. The sound of footsteps grew closer, louder. Whoever was chasing her was almost here. Daniel's mind raced. He had no weapon, no plan, just a small alien girl depending on him. And in that moment, something inside him changed. He felt a weight of responsibility he had never felt before. They reached the edge of the clearing, moving back into the trees. Behind them, the shadows grew taller, red lights flashing brighter. Strange clicking noises filled the air, inhuman and sharp. Daniel pulled the girl behind a large fallen log, crouching low. His breath came fast and the girl's hand gripped his tightly. The hunter's footsteps echoed closer, stopping only a few feet away. Daniel could almost hear their breathing, heavy and strange. He held his breath, praying they wouldn't be found. The girl buried her face against his arm, shaking. Minutes passed like hours. The hunter's light swept across the trees but didn't reach them. Then slowly the sounds began to fade. The figures moved deeper into the forest, their clicking voices growing distant. Daniel exhaled shakily, his heart pounding. He looked down at the girl. Her eyes shimmered with gratitude but also with sorrow. She was still trembling, still afraid. He whispered to her, "You're safe. I won't let them take you." The girl nodded faintly, her glowing eyes never leaving his face. For the first time, she seemed to believe him. But deep in the forest, far away, the clicking sounds rose again, sharper this time. The hunters were still searching. They would not stop, and Daniel knew his life would never be the same again. The night after the forest encounter, Daniel couldn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her face. The strange glow of her skin, the fear in her violet eyes, the way she whispered, "Hunters." She was now lying quietly in his small house. He had carried her back, wrapped in his old jacket so no one would see. She was curled up on the couch, breathing softly, the wound on her arm faintly glowing beneath his makeshift bandage. Daniel sat at the table, staring at her. His mind screamed with questions. What was she? Why was she here? What did she mean about hunters? Yet despite the danger, he couldn't leave her. There was something in her eyes that reminded him of a lost child, alone and scared. The girl stirred. Her glowing hair shifted across her shoulders, shimmering faintly in the dim light. She blinked, looking around the small room, confused but calm. When her eyes found Daniel, she relaxed slightly. "You helped me," she said in her broken voice. Daniel nodded. "You were hurt. I couldn't just leave you there." She hesitated, then whispered, "You kind." Her words, simple but heavy, made him feel both proud and nervous. He leaned forward. "What's your name?" She looked down, thinking. "Lyra," she said softly. "Lyra," Daniel repeated. The name felt strange, but beautiful. "Where are you from?" Her lips trembled. "Not here, far. Far stars." She touched her chest. "Home broken. Mother taken. Hunters follow." Daniel's chest tightened. "Your mother?" "Taken by who?" Lyra's eyes darkened. She closed them as if remembering something painful. "Hunters. They steal. They take children. Take mothers, sell." Her voice cracked as tears slid down her glowing cheeks. "I ran, alone, lost." Daniel's fists clenched. Whoever these hunters were, they weren't just after her. They were cruel. He thought of the shadows in the forest, the clicking voices, the glowing red eyes. Monsters. But before he could ask more, Lyra's small hand touched his. Her skin was warm, almost pulsing with energy. Suddenly, Daniel felt a rush in his mind, flashes of pictures that weren't his. A ship flying through stars, a mother holding Lyra's hand, strange beings with cold metal masks dragging her mother away. Lyra screaming, running, falling. Daniel gasped and pulled his hand back. What was that?" Lyra looked at him with tired eyes. "Memory. I show. Power." Daniel's heart pounded. Telepathy. She could show thoughts, feelings, even pain. "Lyra," he said slowly, "if these hunters are looking for you, then they're still out there. They could come here." Lyra nodded. They never stop. Silence filled the room. Outside, the night hummed with crickets, but Daniel felt no peace. He realized keeping her here was dangerous for both of them. Yet the thought of sending her away twisted his chest. Suddenly, his phone buzzed on the table. Daniel jumped, grabbing it quickly. The screen lit up with a message from an unknown number. "We know what you are hiding. Give her to us." His blood ran cold. He stared at the words, unable to breathe. Then another message appeared. "You cannot protect her. We are watching." Daniel's hands shook. He looked at Lyra, who was watching him with wide, fearful eyes. He turned the phone face down and forced a shaky smile. "It's nothing," he lied, but he knew it wasn't nothing. They already knew. He stood, walking to the window. The street was quiet, empty. Yet, as his eyes scanned the shadows, he thought he saw movement. A dark van parked across the road. A faint red light blinking near the trees like an eye watching. He swallowed hard. "They're here," he whispered. Lyra came closer, her small glowing hand clutching his sleeve. "Hunters," she breathed. Daniel turned to her. "Listen to me. I don't know how, but I'll protect you. I promise." Her violet eyes locked onto his, shining with hope and sadness. She nodded faintly, whispering, Human brave. Suddenly, a loud thud shook the front door. Daniel froze. Another thud followed, heavier this time, like someone or something trying to break in. Lyra's eyes widened. She backed away, trembling. The lights in the room flickered strangely, as if her fear was affecting them. Daniel grabbed the only thing near him, a heavy lamp. His heart raced as the door rattled again. A voice came from outside, calm but chilling. "We don't want to hurt you, human. Just give us the girl." Daniel's grip tightened on the lamp. "Not a chance," he muttered. Lyra gasped, whispering urgently. "They lie. They kill." The voice outside grew colder. "You have 5 seconds." Daniel's pulse roared in his ears. He looked at Lyra, who was trembling, glowing brighter with fear. He looked back at the door, knowing his life had just changed forever. He had only one thought: protect her. The door creaked, the wood cracking. The hunters were coming in, and Daniel realized the real danger had only just begun. The door shuddered under another heavy blow. Dust rained down from the frame, and the old wood creaked as if it could snap at any second. Daniel stood frozen, gripping the lamp in his hands like a useless weapon. His breath came fast, his chest rising and falling. Lyra's glow brightened with her fear. Her violet eyes shimmered as she pressed herself against the wall. The light from her skin flickered, spilling across the room in soft waves. The voice outside came again, colder now. "Step away from her. She is not yours to keep." Daniel swallowed hard. "Who are you?" he demanded, though his voice shook. The reply came, sharp and cruel. "We are the hunters. She belongs to us." Before Daniel could respond, the door splintered. A long crack spread across the wood, and with one final crash it burst inward. The lamp in Daniel's hand trembled. 3 tall figures stepped into the house. They moved with a strange stiffness, as though their bodies were not fully human. They wore black coats that almost blended with the shadows, and their faces were hidden behind masks, smooth metal with glowing red eyes. Daniel's blood went cold. They weren't men. They weren't human. The hunters scanned the room. One tilted its head at Lyra, the red glow in its mask brightening. "Target located," it said in a voice that was both mechanical and alive. Lyra whimpered, pressing closer to the wall. "No, no," she whispered. Her hands trembled, faint sparks glowing between her fingers. Daniel stepped in front of her, raising the lamp like a shield. "Stay away from her." The nearest hunter let out a sound that might have been laughter. "Human," it said, "you are fragile. Do not resist," but Daniel didn't move. His knees shook, but he stayed where he was. Something deep inside told him he couldn't step aside. The hunter reached out with a long, gloved hand. The red glow from its mask lit the room. Lyra cried out. Suddenly, the air shifted. A wave of energy pulsed from Lyra's hands, slamming into the hunter's chest. With a metallic grunt, it stumbled backward, crashing into the broken doorframe. Daniel's eyes widened. He turned to Lyra. You did that?" Her breathing was fast. She shook her head. "Not control. Too much fear." The other hunters moved forward quickly now. One raised a weapon, long, thin, glowing with strange light. Daniel grabbed Lyra's hand. "Run." They darted toward the back door, Daniel pulling her close. A beam of red light shot past them, burning a hole through the wall. Smoke filled the air. They pushed through the kitchen door, stumbling into the night. The cold air hit Daniel's face, but he kept running, dragging Lyra with him. Behind them, the hunters followed, their heavy steps pounding like drums. The quiet neighborhood seemed dead, the houses dark, as if the world had fallen asleep while Daniel's life was being torn apart. "Where do we go?" he gasped. Lyra shook her head, tears in her glowing eyes. "No safe, they find." Daniel's mind raced. He thought of the forest, the same forest where he had first found her. Maybe its shadows could hide them again. "Come on," he said, pulling her toward the trees. The hunters' voices carried through the air, strange and cold. "Do not run." It is pointless, but Daniel ran faster. Branches slapped against his arms as he forced his way into the woods. His heart pounded, his chest burned, but he didn't stop. Behind them, red lights flickered between the trees. The hunters were closing in. They reached a small stream, the water glimmering faintly under the moon. Daniel helped Lyra across, his shoes slipping on the wet rocks. For a moment, hope flickered in his chest. Then a beam of light tore through the trees, blasting a nearby trunk into splinters. Lyra cried out, almost falling. Daniel caught her, pulling her close. "We can't stop," he shouted, but Lyra's small body trembled. Her energy was fading. Her glow dimmed, her legs weak. "I can't." Daniel lifted her into his arms. She was light, almost weightless, but the hunter's steps grew louder. He stumbled through the undergrowth, lungs burning. Suddenly, a hunter appeared ahead of him, stepping out from behind the trees. Its mask glowed red, weapon raised. Daniel skidded to a stop. His arms tightened around Lyra. For a moment, everything felt hopeless. Then Lyra's hand pressed against his chest. Her eyes glowed brighter, violet fire swirling in them. A soft voice filled his head, not spoken aloud, but inside his mind. "Trust me." Before Daniel could answer, Lyra raised her small hand toward the hunter. A surge of light burst from her palm, blinding, powerful, alive. It slammed into the creature, throwing it back into the trees. The forest shook with the impact. Leaves fell like rain. The hunter lay motionless, smoke rising from its chest. Daniel's mouth fell open. How did you—" But Lyra collapsed against him, weak, her glow fading. He held her tighter, his fear rising. If that power drained her this much, how could she survive against all of them? The distant clicking voices returned, echoing through the forest. The other hunters were still coming. Daniel's jaw tightened. He looked at the girl in his arms, fragile and trembling, and then at the dark forest ahead. He realized something with painful clarity. This wasn't just her fight anymore. By helping her, he had become part of it, and if the hunters wanted her, they'd have to come through him first. The red lights grew brighter behind the trees. The chase was not over. It was only beginning. The forest was silent after the fight. Daniel's breath came in sharp gasps as he carried Lyra through the thick trees. Her glow was faint now, flickering weakly like a dying flame. She was unconscious, her small head resting against his shoulder. He stumbled until he found an old cabin deep in the woods, abandoned and broken. The windows were cracked and vines crawled up the wooden walls. Inside, the air was cold and filled with dust, but it was shelter. Daniel laid Lyra down on an old couch. Her chest rose and fell slowly, each breath shallow. He knelt beside her, panic twisting in his stomach. "You'll be okay," he whispered, though he wasn't sure if it was true. Her hand twitched. Her eyes opened just slightly, violet light glimmering. She looked at him, weak but steady. "They took her," she whispered. Daniel leaned closer. "Who?" "My mother," her voice cracked. "They keep her." "Prison." Daniel froze. The word hung in the air like a weight. Prison. His mind rushed back to the hunters, their strange weapons, their cold masks. If they had Lyra's mother, where did they keep her? Lyra's trembling hand touched his wrist. Suddenly, Daniel felt the rush again, her memories spilling into his mind. He saw flashes, a dark facility with metal walls, cages glowing with strange energy, creatures of different shapes trapped inside. He saw Lyra's mother, tall and graceful, with glowing hair like liquid silver bound by chains of light. She reached out, calling for her daughter as hunters dragged her deeper into the prison. Daniel gasped and pulled back, shaking. His hands trembled. "They're keeping her." "Here, on Earth?" Lyra nodded weakly. "Hidden. They use humans too, experiments, sell, far worlds." The words hit Daniel like a hammer. This wasn't just about Lyra. The hunters were using Earth, stealing lives, selling them across the stars. Humans were prey to them. Daniel's stomach twisted with anger. "Then we have to find her," he said firmly. "We have to get your mother out." Lyra's eyes widened. "Danger. I don't care." Daniel's voice was hard now. "If they're hurting people, if they're hurting your mother, I can't just sit and hide." Lyra looked at him for a long time, studying his face. Finally, she whispered, "Human, different, strong." Before Daniel could reply, a noise echoed outside the cabin. A low hum followed by the faint buzz of machinery. He peeked through the broken window. In the distance, black vans rolled slowly through the forest path. Above them, strange drones floated, their red eyes scanning the trees. Daniel's breath caught. "They're searching." Lyra struggled to sit up. "They know. Always know." Daniel grabbed her hand. "Then we have to move. But first, where's the prison?" "Do you know?" Lyra closed her eyes. Her glow brightened faintly and images formed again in Daniel's head. Roads, rivers, an old quarry hidden deep outside town. Beneath it, a secret facility. Cold, dark, filled with hunters. Daniel pulled away, shocked. "That place, I know it. It's miles from here." Lyra looked at him, her voice small but filled with hope. "Mother in there." Daniel clenched his jaw. His fear burned into determination. Then that's where we're going. He grabbed an old map from a drawer marking the quarry. But as he did, Lyra's hand gripped his sleeve again. Her voice was urgent now. You must know truth. If go there, no turning back, Daniel frowned. What truth? Her eyes glowed brighter, and once again the visions came, but this time they were sharper, clearer. He saw not just her mother, but humans locked in cages, their eyes filled with fear. He saw hunters trading them to monstrous figures, exchanging Earth's people for weapons and technology. He saw a larger fleet waiting above the stars, preparing. Earth was not safe. It was being hunted. Daniel stumbled back, shaking his head. No, this can't be real. Lyra's voice was steady. It is. Hunters want Earth. They start with Mother. With me, then all. The room felt colder. Daniel's chest tightened. He realized he was not protecting just one girl anymore. He was standing between humanity and something far greater. Outside, the hum of drones grew louder. Red lights flickered through the cracks of the cabin. Daniel grabbed Lyra's hand, pulling her to her feet. We'll get your mother, he whispered fiercely, and then we'll stop them. Lyra looked at him with wide, shining eyes. For the first time, she smiled faintly through her fear. Together, the door rattled as shadows moved outside. Daniel held his breath, lamp still in his hand. The hunters were close again, but this time he wasn't just running. He had a mission. He would find her mother. He would uncover the truth. And no matter what waited in that dark facility, Daniel knew he couldn't turn back now. The hunters thought humans were weak. They were about to find out they were wrong. The night was thick with mist when Daniel and Lyra reached the old quarry. The air smelled of stone and iron. The place was silent, abandoned long ago, but Daniel's skin prickled as if unseen eyes were watching. At the bottom of the quarry lay what looked like a simple warehouse, rusted metal walls, half buried in the earth. But Daniel knew better. Lyra's memories had shown him the truth. Beneath that building was the hunter's facility, and somewhere inside, her mother. Lyra clutched his arm, her violet eyes glowing faintly in the dark. She looked afraid but determined. Here, she whispered. Mother below. Daniel's throat tightened. He looked at the warehouse, his chest heavy with doubt. He was just a human with no weapons, no plan. But he had promised her. And he couldn't break that promise. They crept closer. Daniel pressed against the wall, peering through a crack. Inside, the floor opened to a stairway descending underground. Hunters stood guard. Tall figures with metal masks, their red eyes sweeping the shadows. Daniel's pulse quickened. They couldn't just walk in. Lyra closed her eyes, focusing. The faint glow around her brightened, and suddenly the air shimmered. Daniel blinked in shock as his own body seemed to blur, the edges of his outline fading. Invisible, Lyra whispered, her voice weak. Not long. Daniel stared at her, amazed. You can do that? Lyra nodded faintly. But drains me. Must hurry. Daniel swallowed hard. He squeezed her hand, and together they slipped past the guards, their footsteps silent on the metal stairs. The deeper they went, the colder it became. Strange humming filled the air, the sound of machines alive with energy. The walls glowed faintly with alien symbols that pulsed like veins of light. Daniel's breath caught as they reached the bottom. The facility stretched before them, rows of cages filled with terrified humans. Men and women, even children, sat huddled behind glowing barriers, their eyes wide with hopeless fear. And they weren't alone. Strange creatures filled other cages, beings with scales, wings, or glowing eyes, all stolen from different worlds. Daniel's stomach twisted. It was worse than he had imagined. Lyra's trembling hand pointed ahead. Her voice was soft, desperate. Mother, there. At the far end, a larger chamber glowed brighter than the rest. Inside, chained by bands of light, stood a tall figure. Her hair shimmered silver like starlight, her skin glowing faintly even in captivity. Her eyes, Lyra's same violet eyes, looked tired but unbroken. Mother, Lyra whispered, tears filling her glowing eyes. But the moment shattered as alarms blared through the facility. A sharp siren screamed, red lights flashing across the walls. The hunters had seen them. The invisibility broke, Lyra collapsing against Daniel, her energy drained. A hunter's voice boomed through the chamber. The fugitives are here. Secure the child. Daniel grabbed Lyra, his heart pounding. Hunters swarmed from the shadows, weapons raised. He had no weapon, no training. Only one thought filled his mind. Get Lyra and her mother out. He dashed forward, weaving through the cages. Beams of light shot past him, scorching the walls. Humans in the cells screamed, pressing against the barriers. Open the cages! Daniel shouted at Lyra even as he ran. Lyra raised a trembling hand. Her glow flickered weakly, but sparks of energy shot from her palm. One cage barrier fizzled, collapsing. The prisoners gasped, then ran free. Daniel saw their eyes, terrified but burning with new hope. "Help us fight!" he shouted. Chaos erupted. Freed humans and alien captives turned on the hunters, attacking with desperate strength. The facility filled with screams, crashes, and beams of light. Daniel pushed through the chaos, reaching the chamber where Lyra's mother was chained. The tall woman raised her head, her eyes locking on her daughter. A faint smile touched her lips despite the chains. "Mother!" Lyra cried, reaching out. Daniel grabbed the glowing restraints. They burned against his skin, but he pulled with all his strength. The chains didn't break. Lyra stepped forward, pressing her glowing hands against them. Her power surged, mixing with her mother's faint energy. The chains cracked, then shattered with a burst of light. Her mother collapsed forward and Daniel caught her. She was weak but alive, her eyes filled with tears as she cupped Lyra's face. "My child," she whispered in a voice like music. But there was no time. The hunters regrouped, pushing back the freed prisoners. Their leader stepped into the chamber, taller than the rest, its mask sharper, its red glow brighter. "You cannot escape," it said coldly. "She belongs to us, and now, so do you." Daniel's heart pounded. He stood in front of Lyra and her mother, fists clenched. He knew he was no match, but he wouldn't move. Not this time. The leader raised its weapon. The room glowed red. Then Lyra's mother stepped forward. Her silver hair shimmered, her violet eyes blazing despite her weakness. She raised her hand and a wave of energy blasted out, knocking hunters off their feet. The leader stumbled but did not fall. Its mask cracked slightly, revealing a glimpse of something monstrous beneath. It growled, furious. "Run!" the mother cried. Daniel grabbed Lyra's hand, pulling her toward the corridor. Her mother followed, her energy flickering like a dying flame. Hunters closed in from every side. The sirens screamed louder. The walls shook with explosions as prisoners fought desperately. Daniel's lungs burned as they sprinted, dodging blasts of light. At last they reached a service tunnel, the night air glowing faintly at the end. Freedom. But as they neared it, the leader appeared again, blocking the exit. Its mask burned with red light, its weapon humming with deadly power. Daniel froze, shielding Lyra and her mother behind him. His chest rose and fell, his heart hammering. He had nothing left to fight with. The leader stepped forward. "No escape," it hissed, but Lyra's mother touched Daniel's shoulder. Her voice was soft but fierce. "There is always a way." Her glow brightened, burning with sudden intensity. Daniel turned to her, eyes wide. She was gathering all her remaining strength, and he realized with dread what she was about to do. The tunnel glowed red from the hunter leader's weapon. The air crackled with deadly energy, and Daniel could feel the heat on his skin. Behind him, Lyra clung to her mother's arm, her violet eyes wide with terror. The leader's voice echoed cold and cruel. "Nowhere to run. Hand over the girl and we may spare you." Daniel stepped forward, his fists tight even though he had no weapon. His voice shook, but he forced the words out. "You'll have to kill me first." The hunter tilted its head, amused. "That can be arranged." But before it could strike, Lyra's mother raised her glowing hands. Her silver hair flowed as her energy surged. The tunnel walls shook, dust falling from the ceiling. Her voice, soft but firm, cut through the noise. "You will not take her." Daniel looked at her, panic twisting in his chest. He saw the fire in her eyes, but also the weakness in her body. She had no strength left. He knew what she was about to do. "No," Daniel whispered. "Don't!" But it was already too late. Lyra's mother spread her arms, and a wave of brilliant light burst from her body. The hunters behind the leader were thrown back, crashing against the tunnel walls. The leader staggered, raising its weapon to block the force. Daniel shielded his eyes. The glow was blinding, burning brighter than fire. Lyra cried out, clutching her mother's arm. "No, don't leave me." Her mother looked down at her daughter, tears shimmering in her violet eyes. "My little star," she whispered, "you must live. You must be free." Lyra shook her head violently. "No, stay!" "Please." The mother cupped her daughter's face, her touch glowing with warmth. Then she placed her hand gently against Lyra's chest. A pulse of light flowed into the girl, filling her small body with energy. Her glow grew brighter, stronger, fiercer. Daniel felt the surge of power radiating from Lyra. Her trembling stopped, replaced by something deeper: strength. The mother smiled weakly. "Your power is yours now. Use it well." "No," Lyra screamed, tears streaming down her glowing cheeks. The leader roared, shoving through the light. Its weapon hummed louder, ready to strike. "You cannot stop us." But Lyra's mother didn't move. Her glow burned even brighter now, her body shimmering like a star about to explode. She turned to Daniel, her voice steady. "Protect her. Whatever happens, protect her." Daniel's throat tightened. He wanted to argue, to beg her to stop. But when he saw the determination in her eyes, he knew there was no choice. He nodded, his voice breaking. "I promise." Her lips curved into a final smile. Then, with a burst of unimaginable energy, she unleashed everything she had left. The tunnel erupted in white light. The walls shook violently, rocks falling, the ground splitting. The hunters screamed as the force tore through them, their masks cracking, their weapons shattering. Even the leader stumbled, its armor breaking under the wave of power. Daniel grabbed Lyra, pulling her close as the world shook. The light engulfed everything, blinding, burning, endless. Then silence. When Daniel opened his eyes, the tunnel was half collapsed. Smoke and dust filled the air. Rubble lay scattered across the ground. The hunters were gone, their bodies crushed or vanished. Only the leader remained, damaged but still alive, crawling weakly out of the debris. Daniel looked down. Lyra was in his arms, glowing brighter than ever before, her small body trembling with energy. But when he looked for her mother, she was gone. Only a faint shimmer of silver dust remained, drifting like stars in the air. Lyra stared, frozen, her violet eyes wide with grief. "Mother," her voice cracked, breaking into sobs. She reached out, but there was nothing to hold. Daniel's chest ached. He held her tightly, whispering, "She gave everything for you. She believed in you." Lyra buried her face against his chest, crying as the silver dust faded into the dark. But the moment of grief was cut short. The leader rose, its mask broken, revealing a monstrous face beneath, half metal, half flesh, with sharp fangs glinting in the red glow of its single remaining eye. "You think this is over?" It growled, its voice full of hatred. "This planet is ours. The girl will not escape." Daniel stood, placing himself in front of Lyra once again. His body shook with exhaustion, but he refused to move. "She's not alone anymore," he said fiercely. Before the leader could strike, Lyra lifted her head. Her violet eyes blazed with new fire, brighter than ever before. Energy crackled around her, flowing through her small hands. Daniel felt the power in her. It was her mother's gift. Alive inside her, the leader raised its weapon, but Lyra's voice rang through the tunnel, filled with fury and grief. "You will not hurt him. You will not hurt my world." She thrust her hands forward. A beam of pure violet light burst from her palms, slamming into the leader. The tunnel shook as the creature roared, its body burning under the force. The weapon shattered. Its mask cracked completely, the red glow in its eye fading as it screamed one last time. Then it fell, collapsing into the rubble. Silence followed, broken only by Lyra's heavy breaths. Daniel looked at her in awe. Her glow softened, her energy dimming as she fell to her knees. He caught her quickly, holding her close. She whispered through her tears, "She's gone." Daniel hugged her tightly, his own eyes stinging. "She's gone, but she lives through you, and I promised her I'd protect you." The tunnel shook again, rocks falling from above. They had to leave before it collapsed completely. Daniel pulled Lyra to her feet, and together they stumbled toward the faint light at the tunnel's end. As they emerged into the cold night, Daniel looked back one last time at the destroyed facility. His chest ached with grief but also burned with resolve. Lyra had lost her mother. He had lost his sense of safety, but together they had gained something new, a reason to fight, and Daniel knew the hunters would not stop. This battle was only the beginning. The night was quiet again, but for Daniel nothing felt the same. He and Lyra stood on a hill outside the quarry, staring at the ruins below. Smoke drifted into the sky. The hunter's base, once hidden and full of captives, was now nothing but broken stone and fire. The cold wind brushed against them. Lyra's small hand held tightly onto Daniel's sleeve. Her violet eyes were dim with sorrow, but a faint glow still lingered within them. Her mother was gone. The sacrifice still burned in her heart like an open wound. She had cried until her voice broke, and now she stood in silence, the stars reflecting in her eyes. Daniel placed a hand gently on her shoulder. "I'm sorry, Lyra," he whispered. She looked up at him, her face wet with tears. She gave herself for me. For us." Her voice cracked. Daniel nodded. His own chest felt heavy, but he forced his voice to stay strong. "She believed in you. That means something. She wanted you to live, and now it's up to us to honor that." Lyra leaned against him, her small body trembling. For a moment they just stood there watching the night sky. The stars glittered above, endless and cold, but Daniel knew it wasn't over. The hunters were still out there. Her mother had destroyed many, but not all. Somewhere beyond those stars more waited. A fleet, a war, and Earth had no idea. He clenched his fists. "They think humans are weak," he muttered. "They think they can take this planet. But we're not going to let that happen." Lyra looked at him, her eyes shining again. "You fight for me? For your people?" Daniel met her gaze. "For both. You're part of this world now, Lyra. You're not alone anymore." A silence passed between them, but it was not empty. It was full of something new. Trust. As dawn approached, the horizon glowed with soft light. They walked slowly back toward town, their bodies tired but their spirits unwilling to break. On the way, they passed a group of freed prisoners who had escaped during the chaos. Some were human, others were not. Their eyes followed Daniel and Lyra with gratitude and awe. One of them, an older man, stepped forward. His clothes were torn, his face dirty, but his voice was steady. "You saved us," he said. Daniel shook his head. "We only opened the door. You saved yourselves." The man gripped his arm. "Maybe, but you gave us hope. Don't forget that." Daniel nodded quietly, his throat tight. Hope. That was something worth fighting for. When they finally reached his small house, the sky was bright with morning. The door still hung broken from the hunter's attack. Daniel paused, staring at it. His old life was gone. There was no going back. Inside, Lyra sat on the couch, hugging her knees. Her glow flickered softly in the daylight. She looked fragile, but her eyes carried new strength. Daniel sat across from her. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Lyra whispered, "What now?" Daniel looked out the window at the brightening sky. He thought of the hunter's leader, its final words before it died. "This planet is ours." He thought of the visions Lyra had shown him, fleets in the stars, Earth marked for conquest. He turned back to her. "Now we prepare." Lyra tilted her head. "Prepare?" "Yes," Daniel's voice was firm. "They'll come again. Not just for you. For all of us. We can't wait until it's too late. We need to be ready." Lyra studied him, then nodded slowly. "Together." "Together," Daniel agreed. That night, as the town returned to its normal quiet, Daniel stood outside staring at the stars. The world around him looked the same, but he knew better. Earth was no longer just Earth. It was a battleground waiting to happen. Lyra stepped beside him, her small hand slipping into his. She looked up at the stars, too, her eyes glowing faintly. Daniel tightened his grip on her hand. His voice was low but steady. "If they want this planet, they'll have to go through me first." The wind stirred, carrying the faint smell of smoke from the destroyed facility. It mixed with the morning air, a reminder of the fight that had already begun. Lyra leaned her head against his arm. For the first time since her mother's death, a small, fragile smile touched her lips. "Mother would be proud," she whispered. Daniel looked down at her, his chest aching but filled with resolve. "Then we'll make sure her sacrifice wasn't wasted." Above them, the stars stretched endlessly, some burning brighter than others. Somewhere out there, enemies were watching. But for the first time, Daniel didn't feel powerless. He had seen what humans could do when they refused to bow. He had seen what one promise could mean. And now, with Lyra beside him, he had a reason to fight. The hunters had made a mistake when they came to Earth, because now, humanity had a warrior of its own.